Hello everyone and welcome to another Working From Home State of the Game. This is episode 161 and the date is the 27th of May 2020. I can't believe we're almost into summer. What? Technically summer starts on June 1st? I don't know. Bruce, Yannick, when would you say summer starts?
That's a good question. When it's not so depressingly dark outside constantly.
Yeah.
I'm one of those that goes with the 21st of June. So I don't believe in 1st of June. That's not summer to me. And when you look outside, it doesn't look like summer today or anytime soon.
I now realize that Chris hasn't updated the ticker, so I'm just going to move that and we'll just pretend like that never happened. Great. How are you doing, Yannick and Bruce?
Great. Doing
yeah.
great. Lots of
doing
great from the PTS, so that's exciting.
Well, you look very, very happy. I'm glad, like we mentioned in the preview, that people get to see a first look at Massive's offices behind Bruce. It looks like a bit of a ghost town, Bruce. There you go. Very cool. I haven't even been in yet myself because I'm on full lockdown mode.
It's very industrial right now.
There's no risk of any spoiler or anything because all the PCs are off.
Yeah, perfect. But it's cool. It's nice to kind of see that you're in there. So anyway, I would need to get to the priority alerts before we go too far down this rabbit hole. But I want to say that there was a regular maintenance performed yesterday. We fixed an issue that prevented players who were in a group from earning progress on global event challenges from their allies for some challenges. There was an issue fixed that caused the doors during the through the Black Tusk Forces part of the DARPA Research Lab main mission not opening. There was an issue fixed that would allow players to constantly reset cooldowns of skills. The change for this means that players will no longer be able to swap out skills when charge-based skills are on cooldown. Makes sense. There has been some constant or niggling reports of deltas in raids and also just some general ones. Yannick, I know that we consistently look at what's happening there. What's the best information that people can give so we can troubleshoot those?
Yeah, it's one of those, or it's two of those that are lingering and but are very, very hard for us to pinpoint. So basically, as much information as possible is always the most helpful thing. So if you can, when the delta happens to you, what we would need is first the exact error code you're getting. Just delta is very vague, so the exact error code. Time when that happens, where are you playing from, what ISP are you using, everything relating to connectivity basically would be really helpful. Were you in a group, were you soloed, was that match made, or was that just like a group of friends, so you know where they're playing from, all this kind of information. Like the more you can put in there, the more useful it becomes for us.
Okay, cool. I mean, so it basically sounds like there's no limit to good information, like just give us everything, or
yeah. I mean, there's no risk that you're giving us too much, so the more you can put in there, the better.
Cool. I'm just gonna send Chris a Facebook message and tell him to update the ticker so we can get that happening. Cool. So the main thing that we obviously want to talk about today is the PTS that opened last week. Bruce, I know I actually did bump into you in a few Twitch chats over the weekend and that sort of thing. Obviously, you've been looking at closely what players have been doing. What's been some of your highlights and things you've been looking at?
Well, I think it's just been really great to see how well received all the new gear has been for the most part. I think it's fair to say that the community sentiment or the feedback that we've been getting has been almost unanimously positive in terms of like, yes, these are powerful talents. These are powerful gear sets. One of them in particular may be a little bit too powerful, but we've addressed that, and we have some fixes in the pipe for PTS Phase 2 that are going to address that, and then hopefully allow us to get some more concrete and informative feedback on how that gear set in particular is performing. But overall, it's been really awesome to see people like trying out the new, Adrenaline Rush and Headhunter and Regulus and Mantis and even the Ravenous, which is, on paper, like it's almost overwhelming. That you look at the talent tooltip text, and it's just like this wall. So it can be kind of difficult to grok at first glance exactly, how strong or powerful it is. But we've seen people sort of experimenting with it and appreciating its potential.
Perfect. Sorry, I just saw Chris's message in the ticker. It says Chris totally updated the ticker. Sorry, Hamish. It's fine now. It's all good. No, so I mean, I want to go into as many details about changes that we might see in PTS Phase 2, but let's just go through some of the details. Phase 1's ending soon. We're planning to take the PTS down to deploy Phase 2 so we can update some stuff. The PTS will shut down on Thursday at 1 p.m. CEST, which is 7 a.m. Eastern and 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's also 11 p.m. New Zealand time. Yeah, just for those of you who feel forgotten. PTS Phase 2 will go live on Friday. So that's pretty soon.
Yeah, so just one thing here, because to make sure it's not lost, but we're doing things a bit differently with this one. So you would have noticed that we are actually going to shut down the PTS for 24 hours. So we are closing it tomorrow at 1 p.m. CEST, and we are reopening it 24 hours later with PTS 2. There's a lot of technical reasons on the background why we are doing that, and that's just to make sure that when PTS 2 is available, it's everything works as intended, especially since now we have a lot of different rules between people who own the expansion, people who don't, and all that. So there's a lot of background work that needs to be done. So that's why we need to take it down for 24 hours.
Okay, that's good to know. Nice and clear. All right. The exact times, obviously with the PTS, it can be very emergent, some things that happen. We're, like I said, aiming for 1 p.m. CEST on Friday, but if those things change, just make sure that you're following the Division game on Twitter is probably the best one. If there are new things that pop up, that will be the first place that you will probably find out about them.
If I can sorry, I just want to reply to the map dabber asking if we will have to re-download the entire PTS. No, you won't. You will keep the build, and you can just download the patch when the patch is available.
Great. Fantastic. Hashtag get Yannick a cam. Yes, agreed. We need to sort out Yannick's. I do think, though, we probably need to get you a good camera and a microphone. We'll figure that one out.
We can start a crowdfunding campaign.
Yes. I don't know how that would go down. I'm sure Ubisoft can afford one camera and one microphone. Yannick. At least I hope. Okay. So, Bruce, you alluded to it when you were giving kind of the top level overview. Some things being overpowered. I'm assuming you're talking about the Bulwark. Can we start there?
Yeah. So, for those who don't know, or who didn't step foot into the DZ during Phase 1, Foundry Bulwark wasn't working as intended. So what was happening behind the scenes or under the hood was that the amount of damage that was being repaired. So, or maybe I should start with what does the gear set do for those who don't have the PTS or haven't been keeping up to speed. So Foundry Bulwark, when you or your shield take damage, the gear set will repair 40% of that over 10 seconds. And then if you wear the chest piece and the backpack, that 10 seconds becomes 6 seconds, and the repair amount becomes 60%. So it's really strong. But it's also supposed to be balanced and work appropriately. And part of the things that counter it are large, significant windows of burst damage, right? Because the repair effect is not a full repair; it's a percentage of the damage you take, and it's over time. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in PvP, we modify all the damage that players do. We reduce it, quite significantly in PvP, so that you're not doing millions and hundreds of millions of damage to each other. But the repair effect of the gear set was taking the pre-modified damage that you were taking. So someone was shooting you, and they would do, let's say, 100,000 damage. You would technically take 30,000 damage because of the 70% reduction in PvP, but the gear set was repairing 100% damage. So you could never actually do enough weapon damage as a player to someone who was wearing that gear set in order to kill them. So they are effectively invulnerable, unless you were able to do, a one-shot kill of some kind. So yeah, we've fixed that. We've also fixed something that I guess we might as well segue into, which is incoming repairs.
Do you mind if I ask what the fix was for that? Is it that the healing is now calculated based on the PvP modifier, or is it?
It will repair the amount of damage you actually took, rather than 70% more than you did, I guess, if that makes sense, or if that's
so. It's just an order of operations thing, like it.
Exactly. Okay. So we were repairing your PvE damage in PvP, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Gotcha. It just got a little bit bonkers. On the PvE side of things, people may have also seen, footage floating around of people, standing in a legendary mission, just being bombarded with bullets and explosions, and effectively being invulnerable. That was because the attribute known as incoming repairs was affecting the repair value or the repair effect of that gear set as well. Meaning, if you had enough incoming repairs, you could get the repair amount up to 100%. So 1 for 1. So if you took 100,000 damage or you took 1,000,000 damage, you would repair that amount over time. So essentially, a unintended and degenerate effect that made the gear set much more powerful than it was supposed to. And that's also been fixed for phase 2.
Great. Cool. That makes a lot of sense. I'm really interested to see how that one pans out. Hopefully that changes the way it operates in the Dark Zone. The next thing I want to go into is the feedback that we are seeing on rifles. Obviously, the M1A was mega powerful and was for the last... Well, I can't remember when it wasn't the most powerful gun. What are you seeing from the feedback of rifles on the PTS at the moment, Bruce?
I mean, we obviously wanted to package the tuning of the M1A, bringing it down to what we would consider normal levels of power. We wanted to package that with a sort of broad spectrum pass on all the weapons and certain archetypes in particular, right? So while it always sucks to have your favorite weapon or a weapon that you rely on to have its damage reduced, I think overall we're in a much better place, and I think most of the community or the people who I've spoken to agree and are much happier with sort of the current or the ecosystem as it's going to exist in TU10 versus how it exists today. For anyone who's read the patch notes or has been keeping up to speed with the PTS, SMGs and shotguns in particular received a pretty significant buff across the board. Assault rifles were increased significantly as well. Many rifles that were underperforming were brought up. Some that were technically overperforming, but kind of living in the shadow of M1A, so like the MK17 were adjusted as well in order to kind of like bring them in line as along with the M1A. LMGs, lots of LMGs were bought. So everything kind of went up essentially to not M1A levels, but levels where we feel there's a much stronger or more cohesive balance between the weapon archetypes, especially when it comes to SMGs and shotguns, which are difficult to use to their full potential in higher difficulty content like heroic or legendary, because you have to often expose yourself or play aggressively or play the flanks, which means that consequently you're exposing yourself to more potential damage, right? So we want to make using those weapons feel good and feel rewarding. And that, meant for the most part just making them do more damage.
Okay. That's good to hear. The new brand set, the Walker Harrison Co. brand set, there's been some feedback that it's not been strong enough. What are you seeing?
I mean, I guess everyone's entitled to their opinions, but
sure. I mean,
but mathematically speaking, it's a strong gear set.
Okay.
The the 1-piece bonus is not necessarily anything to write home about. It's 5% weapon damage. But the 2 and 3-piece bonuses are multiplicative damage increases, and meaning that they scale very well. And while 5% damage to armor looks lower than 10% damage, more damage with assault rifles, in the end, when you make the final damage calculation at the when shooting at somebody, and if they're wearing armor, you're actually going to want to have damage to armor, or you're going to favor that ultimately, which is obvious to anyone who's been coveting or using, the quote unquote holy trinity of the Hollow Man and Fox's Prayer and Contractor's Gloves, right? Because those damage to health, damage to armor, damage to targets outside of cover, like those are very powerful attributes. So I'm not too concerned with Walker Harris & Co. being a not good brand set, especially considering it has 2 new named item on it, which is the Perfect Headhunter and Perfect Adrenaline Rush, which are, very powerful talents that I think are going to be very coveted and used in a lot of builds.
Is there anything that you'd be particularly looking at as it pertains to that brand set during PTS Phase 2?
In terms of like adjustments or changes?
Yeah, or any interactions that you think you might be interested in, or...
Not that I could think of off the top of my head. Again, like, we're always listening and we want your feedback. So if you truly do feel and you can make a convincing argument that that brand set or those bonuses aren't up to snuff, like, let us know and we can adjust. This is that window of opportunity. Yeah,
exactly. I see people, it's Twain in chat saying at least make it 10% and that sort of thing.
So that would be a mathematically incorrect thing to do, because that would just be the best brand set in the game for a weapon damage build. Yeah. Because 10% damage to health or 10% damage to armor is not equal to 10% weapon damage.
Yeah. No, but I'm just pointing out that it's great that people are talking about it. Like, throw out ideas. Bruce will come at you and tell you that you're wrong for various reasons. It's important that we talk about it. So please continue to give us your feedback. And like Bruce says, make a case, right?
Yeah.
There is one discussion that I think is kind of important to have, because there, I think, are some nuances that make it different during the PTS because it's PC focused rather than having console players involved, and that's game difficulty. Some people are saying that the PTS feels too easy. What do you have on that, Bruce? Sorry, Yannick, you can pitch in too if you want.
Yeah, Yannick, feel free to jump in at any time, unless you want me to take this one too.
I think, it's, what we wanted with Title Update 10 was to make sure that the game felt satisfying in terms of the power I feel with my build and with my gun, and satisfying in terms of being rewarded for the time I invest. And part of that, of course, came with increasing the player power. So all the buffs we've done to weapons and a lot of the gear and all these kind of things. So, of course, one side of that means that some parts of the game may become easier. And that's okay, because we want to make sure that it's fun above all, and therefore things like heroic difficulty, for example, it should still be a challenge for you if you are not fully optimized. But if you're one of those players that is already fully optimized, yes, heroic is probably going to be something that becomes fairly easy for you to go through, and then legendary is what you want to go for. And legendary should always be a challenge for you. But mathematically, we really wanted to bring the players up and try to buff the entire population as much as possible to make sure that the game felt fun and satisfying. So I'm not really surprised to see that kind of feedback. Once again, it's not closing the door and saying we don't want to change anything. So let's keep that conversation going. But so far, we feel like we've landed in a pretty good spot in terms of trying to make the game feel more satisfying, more fun, and therefore not making everything completely trivial either.
Yeah, I think that's good, and I see some people in chat talking about it as well. PC is different from console, and also the people that play the PTS tend to be the more involved and hardcore of our gameplay community. So we kind of need to be aware of who's playing the PTS and these sorts of things. It's definitely something that we need to keep talking about. But no, I'm glad you guys
And,
feel like it's
and you have both sides, right? I mean, I see people in chat that are saying that the game is still too hard, or they don't really feel the buffing power and all of that. So you see, you really have both points, and that really depends where you're coming from. And again, if you're like fully optimized and you're a player that has been farming legendary already before with like title update 9 or 9.1, yes, legendary it's not going to be much different. It might be slightly easier for you as well. So sure, if you're in that case, but for a lot of other players for whom maybe like heroic or even challenging might have been frustrating, even though their build felt okay and they felt like they were playing the game right, but still there were these moments where I get one shot for no reason, or where like I'm emptying my mag on this NPC and I'm not killing him. These are the kind of things that we want to improve. So this, with title update 10, should feel better across the board for everyone.
No, I agree. And BB3 Radio, I just want to address that. He said that he just said forget the console player base. What we're saying is exactly the opposite of that. That we need to be aware of that the people who are playing the PTS, who we appreciate very much, are a subset of our community. And as awesome as they are, they have a very different experience from the wider community. And we need to kind of, while we're looking at the PTS, also keep those people in mind, console players and other PC players who aren't playing the PTS. So we're very aware of that. Bruce, we had a bit of a chat about this before the stream started. I know that you've been looking at, I know because I saw you in an Ego stream the other day, you've been following a lot of Dark Zone stuff. PvP time to kill. What's your take on that right now?
It's difficult to have sort of gotten any objective feedback right now, or to have any sort of strong sentiment about how the adjustments that we did for phase 1 affected PvP, because as I was saying earlier, any time that I observed any action in the DC, for the most part, it was people sort of clowning on each other with Foundry Bulwark. So I'm hoping to get more data, feedback, and experience in the DZ with phase 2, with Foundry Bulwark obviously working as it should, and with a more broad spectrum, what's the word I'm looking for, data set, I guess, which is going to incorporate not just adjustments to the weapons, but also exotic weapons, exotic armor, gear, talent adjustments, gear set adjustments, all that stuff that's coming in phase 2. So that's what I'm personally like. So I hesitate to say anything with any sort of certainty right now.
Sure.
Other than please continue to go into the Dark Zone, shoot at each other, test things, and give us your feedback, because now is when we're doing our best to balance things the way they should be.
Well, I do see a note here, and I don't know if that's something that you know about, but it says EG balance to MMRs. I mean, I love using my MMRs, but it hasn't really felt like there's been a reason to use them. Is there something there that I can get excited about?
In the Dark Zone, in PvP, or in PvE?
Yes, or both. I don't know. Any
right.
MMR changes I can get excited about?
Well, I mean, so MMR damage comparatively to all the other weapons in PvP went up by 12.5%, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool.
So that's not insignificant. And we've also added a new exotic sniper rifle, the Mantis. We've added a new talent called Headhunter. Those two things combined are incredibly powerful and make sniping feel incredibly satisfying. So I think, I think sniper builds are going to be in a better place in TU10.
Cool. Oh, that's good. Couple of things I want to get to as well. The Wave 2 is coming on Friday, like we talked about before. There'll be full patch notes available when that PTS goes live on Friday. Yannick, do you have anything specifically that you were looking at in Phase 2 of the PTS, or can I move over to something that Nikki sent through?
I mean, there's a lot of things that are coming with PTS2, and yes, there's a lot of changes that are coming with rewards, and we're going to go through that. I think one thing that's going to be interesting and hopefully is going to answer to a lot of discussions and feedback we've got is the general buff on exotics. So the pass on exotic items is going to be in PTS2. So now it's going to be a good time to actually go back to those exotics and have a look at them, because we got feedback on PTS1 that exotics were still underperforming. Yes, because they hadn't yet received their pass. So PTS2 is going to be where this is. So I think that's going to be interesting now to look at that, especially with all the gear changes that are already in PTS1 and a few additional tweaks in PTS2, but now see how all of that is going to synergize with the exotics getting their pass. I think that's going to be interesting to see what surfaces there.
All right. I did, while I have you, I did promise Inigo the other day, and I know he's bringing it up in chat, and other people are too. We're getting more gear. Is there ever any more stash space coming? Could Inigo have your PayPal to buy some stash space from you, is basically what I'm asking.
It's when we increased it last time, we doubled it. And we doubled it with the idea in mind of like, okay, instead of doing like we did in Division 1, where we did small increments one after the other, always hoping it would be enough, and it never was enough. Here we thought, okay, we are going to double it. And hopefully that should be good. So increasing it now, I can't say if it's possible or not, to be honest. We haven't really looked into it, so it's not really on the table at the moment, but that's something we can look at. But I don't know if it's possible, because when we doubled it, that was already pretty much the like, okay, we're going to do that, but that's probably the only time we're ever going to do it.
Okay. No, I've done my bit, but if we have any updates on that, I'll probably just keep asking and seeing if that's something that moves across, or if we can just say a hard no. That'd be great too.
Yeah. It's also,
right.
I mean, you still have, 300 slots in your stash. So it's, of course, for some people, it's still not enough, but it's a lot. So I don't know how much good it would do for you if we increase it to 400 or 500, because like scoring through that and finding the items you want is probably going to become even more of a pain.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you for the information. I do have a thing here from Nikki that was sent through to the community team. So some of the change to phases that Nikki mentioned, there's an updated spread of item power between minimum and maximum rolls. This will result in mostly fewer rolls at the minimum. That's good. Increased minimum item power for all caches. Also, all containers and missions now scale their regular and targeted loot with difficulty, which means no more purples on challenge or higher. Increased minimum and maximum crafting results with weighting added for a better spread between them. Cool. All right. That's some words from Nikki from abroad. Okay. The other thing that has been happening is obviously our seasons are still going. Yannick, what can you tell us about the global event while I roll some of my gameplay that I took yesterday? I was having a lot of fun with the global event, actually. It's so Guardian is it's a fun one. So it started yesterday, and the idea with Guardian is every time you have a fire team that spawns, one member of this fire team is the Guardian, and that means that's the only one you can damage. All the other NPCs are immune to damage until you take out the Guardian. And when you take that Guardian out, then you basically stun all the other NPCs, and you get a buff to your RPM. So that's really about just accuracy and about prioritizing your targets. But it's also very rewarding and very fun when you actually kill the Guardian and then wipe out the entire group. So it's one that's it's fun. It really changes the way you're approaching every of the fire teams, and of course it creates situations sometimes where you have the Guardian is all the way at the back because it's a distance, like it's a sniper or something, and it's protecting a rusher. So you really have to
even more than ever, or like be really aware of what's going on around you and where are the targets, and necessarily shoot the one that's closest.
Yep. No, I had that when I was trying to take down one of the bounties when I was playing the other day. It was like one of the ones that has a rocket launcher in the back, and it was kind of brutal. But no, it's super fun. I just kind of jumped in, not knowing what to expect, and it was a blast. Bruce, have you had a chance to get stuck into it yet?
I have not. I've been working on everything that's going into the PTS. So.
Well, I'm glad that you've been working. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. I'm eager to get stuck in. So, hopefully this weekend.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So there's also those people who haven't seen it yet. I'm just gonna take us over to the UI so you can kind of see what to expect. There's some rewards attached to it. Yannick, can you take us through those?
I'm hoping the video will show them because
it's going to. You can narrate them. I just wanted to show people how to activate the thing and go through the challenges and stuff.
But it's basically it's similar to other global events. So that means that the first time you activate it, you're gonna get the first reward automatically, which is an arm patch.
Yep.
And then
look, I'm claiming it now.
Yeah, look at that. And then you get caches of crafting materials, season caches, and things like that. And you have also, as every other global event, you have an exotic cache at rank 9, and then you get a backpack trophy at rank 10 as well.
Perfect. No, that's cool. And how long is it running for?
So it's for 1 week. So that's until next week, Tuesday. So yeah, that's the time you have. And once again, as a reminder, because it's not necessarily clear, as usual, all the daily challenges you have will stay in the subsequent days. So the day 1 challenges, you don't have to complete them on day 1. You can complete them all the way until day 7. So they just keep adding on top of each other as they unlock.
Great. One of the things that I want to clarify as we kind of come towards the end of Season 1 soon and start looking towards Season 2, the Season Pass premium track dynamic, can you clarify that? Because some people may have missed that during Season 1 they got part of it free, and then in Season 2 it's slightly different. Can you give us the rundown on that, Yannick?
Yeah, and I think it's, of course, since the Season 1 was available for free, or the Season Pass was available for free for all Warlords of New York players, that means it's not necessarily clear for everyone what are you purchasing when you purchase it. So just to be clear, the season is free. The season is available to all Warlords of New York players without any extra purchase. So the manhunt, all the season activities, all of that, you don't need to purchase the Season Pass for that. When you purchase the Season Pass, what you get is actually you unlock the extra track of rewards. That is, when you look at your reward track, that's the one at the bottom. So that means that every time you gain a season level, you get an extra reward on top of the one you would get on the free track. That's what the Season Pass gives you. So that track includes a bunch of vanity options. So you get a unique outfit and these kind of things. You get skins for your weapons. And also some extra caches of gear.
Okay, cool. All right, just I want people to know we're over time, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I can cook dinner later. I do want to chat a little bit about these things that seem to happen when we put out any kind of PTS or any time a client patch goes in. There's information in there that we probably didn't want in there. Can you talk to us a little bit about leaky things, Yannick?
Yeah. So that's the risk we take every time we do a PTS. We put a build out there that is not finished, that may contain information that we don't actually want to disclose, where we may not have had time to actually hide things. And so there's always a risk that people will be able to find information there. And this is what happened. And this is what happened with this PTS. Now, the amount of information that was found on this specific PTS is beyond what we would have been normally comfortable with. So, yeah, it's a bit disappointing. Leaks suck, but it's on us. We should have done a better job at hiding all of that. So, all we would ask is just, especially everything related to story, if you want to discuss it, please be mindful of people that don't want to have the story spoiled. So please try to make sure that you hide everything under spoiler tags and everything to try to be respectful of that. And also keep in mind that all of that is still work in progress. It's still in development. So there may still be surprises that have not been part of that. That's for the narrative content. Now, of course, the second part is people will have seen references to what is called Skyscraper. And yes, we are working on a new PvE game mode that we're currently calling Skyscraper. And the idea of this game mode is something that should kind of scratch that itch of having a PvE replayable game mode. So yes, that should have been a surprise. I guess it won't be. That's our fault. So at least it's fair for everyone to know. One thing that we wanted to make clear, though, because we already see immediately the comparison with Underground, and we see people talking about Underground 2.0, this is not a new Underground. And we've said from the beginning, when we talked about Underground and Survival, we said we were interested in finding inspiration from those kind of things, but we are not interested in recreating a copy of those modes in our game. And that's the case here. This is not an Underground 2.0, so it's just to make sure that everybody has the right expectations. When Skyscraper comes out, and it's going to take some time until it comes out, it's going to be a completely different and new experience.
Great. I mean, that's all we can really say about Skyscraper stuff now. I mean, I'm always excited when there's new stuff, but
we probably won't be talking about it for some time, so don't ask us.
No,
just
exactly.
Pretend.
Yeah, just be like, Skyscraper what?
This will be our secret. Circle of trust.
Exactly. No one knows. No, but it's as soon as we do have the green light to talk about it, we'll try and create some really cool, super hype streams to show it off, and it'll be cool. But we can't talk about it right now. All right. Bruce is itching. He's like, I'm just gonna say it. Bruce.
I'm just gonna lay it all out there.
Don't do it.
I like my job.
Okay. I will use this point of the show to let Yannick and Bruce take a quick look at chat and see if there's anything in their backlog that they want to talk about. And while we are doing that, I'm going to take a look at a couple of the agent highlights for the week. Just want to say, the art skills in the Division community have like quadrupled every week. It's crazy. Anyway, so without further ado, Yannick, is that French? Anyway, you can.
That's you.
What is?
I never really know. I'm like, anyway, dark book art with the digital painting, mad helicopter skills. Bruce, have you seen this one?
I have not seen this.
Yeah, it popped up on Twitter a couple of days ago, and it's insane.
Okay.
I'm mad impressed.
Wait, that is painted? Is that what you
I
said?
don't know if it's like painted or photo bashed or a mixture of everything, but it's mega cool. I'm a particular fan of the movement of the blades.
Yes.
Very, very cool. So Dark Book Art over on Twitter. Keep doing what you do, and please go over and follow for more awesome art. We have another returning agent with Lara Necro. She keeps doing crazy cool stuff. So teaming up with cosplayers seems to be the order of the day, and it's totally worth it. So this one, it's just, I would tell you, because I learned from the one that she did with Eidolon Fox, that there's a bunch of little Easter eggs hidden in all of these paintings. So go and find them. Yeah, look at the screen down the bottom. What's that? Photoshop is not cosplay. That is true. But it's a collaboration, Photoshop and cosplay.
Yeah.
So pictures of cosplayers with awesome Photoshop work on top. Okay, that's again, Lara Necro over on Twitter. Go and follow her. She keeps putting out crazy cool stuff as well. Okay, I'm just gonna come back here. Yannick, Bruce, did you see anything in chat that you want to address before we head off?
I mean, there's obviously a lot of people saying, buff exotics, and if you guys don't mind, I can, really quickly just sort of highlight some of the standouts that are coming with PTS2. So
yeah, if you have numbers, let's go.
I can bring the heat. I can bring some numbers. So
Please.
Chameleon damage increased by 32.8%. Bighorn, damage increased by 11.2% with additional functionality, so that now when you're scoped in and you're shooting people in the head, you're going to increase your overall headshot damage.
Way to bury the lead on these changes, but cool. Let's keep going.
What's that? Sorry?
I'm just saying, way to bury the lead on these changes. Like, oh, just these little things. Keep going. This is insane. Cool. Keep going.
Most of the exotics got sort of a base weapon damage buff in order to make them on par with their sort of non-exotic counterparts as well. So I'm just going through them to see if there's any additional standouts. BTSU data gloves got a pretty significant buff now, actually. So if you're wearing the BTSU data gloves, depending on how many skill tiers you have, you're going to get a pretty significant skill haste increase to the hive skill in particular, so that there's more sort of, I guess, incentive, or if you're relying on your hive and then you have to detonate it in order to get the overcharge effect, you're going to get your hive back and your charges much, much faster. So that, I think, is a pretty great change. We can talk about PvP really quick, because I see a lot of people saying like fix Negotiator's Dilemma or fix Imperial Dynasty, all this stuff. So Negotiator's Dilemma, we've reduced the radius that marked targets can damage each other in PvP to 15 meters. So now there's some counterplay. And if you get marked and your mate gets marked, you know that if you get far enough away from each other, you won't take any more damage. There's additional fixes that are coming in. We're going to try and address the issue of shooting, we're going to try to also incorporate more visual UI feedback, so you know at a glance that you're in danger of being affected by Negotiator's Dilemma's mark effect. What else in there? I mean, we could also really quickly discuss the reduction in bleed damage in PvP that a lot of people were surprised by. We reduced bleed damage on the Stinger Hive and the Mortar Turret and Explosive Seeker by 75%. We're going to increase the damage that the Stinger Hive does by 75%. So the idea here is that if you're a high skill tier user and you throw your Stinger Hive down, we don't want anyone who gets hit by one Stinger drone to essentially be, KO'd from that effect, right? The idea with a Stinger Hive is it's area denial, and it punishes anyone who stands within its area of effect. So by dialing down the bleed damage, we're going to remove some of the sort of frustrating elements of it. But by increasing the damage that the drones do, we're going to leverage the fact that it's area denial, and if you stay in its area of effect, you're going to take a significant amount of damage. So that's just to shed some light on sort of like the inner workings there. Unfortunately, PTS Phase 1 kind of got half of the equation in. So this is what's coming in Phase 2 to sort of like compensate for those nerfs.
A couple of things that are standing out. Are there any changes to the Eagle Bearer or Fire Holster?
Imperial Dynasty?
Yeah.
So we aren't changing anything regarding Imperial Dynasty in PvE, but in PvP, thank you for bringing that up, because again, if you haven't been following the PTS, yes, it will no longer immediately ignite someone in PvP. In order for you, if you're the exotic holster owner, you're going to need to maintain line of sight for 3 seconds in order to charge up and then apply a burn effect to somebody. So meaning that if you're not the person, or if you're fighting someone who has Imperial Dynasty, there's a window of opportunity and there's some element of counterplay, so that when you get in range of its effect, you can either get out of that range or you can break line of sight and prevent yourself from being set on fire. So I think that's a significant one. You mentioned Eagle Bearer.
Anything in your list for that?
Eagle Bearer is getting a damage increase of 7.8%, but no other adjustments.
Okay.
Something else to note, actually, if you don't mind. So there was a significant change to weapon handling that was supposed to go into PTS Phase 1. Unfortunately, due to one reason or another, it didn't make it in. That's going to be in Phase 2. So please give it a a whirl. Let me know what you think. Long story short, weapon handling is now going to increase. 1% weapon handling is going to increase your stability, accuracy, reload speed, and weapon swap speed by 1%, rather than a fraction of that percentage. Meaning if you have 10% weapon handling, you've got 10% accuracy, stability, reload speed, and weapon swap. So I think that that's going to be a pretty
Interesting.
Spicy attribute.
I'd love to see some theory crafting around that, because there are some damage increases in there with weapon handling.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
when you have reload speed and you have weapon swap, like, as a big chunk of that, I'd love to see some calculations. So if anyone's theory crafting, that'd be great. Before we head off, we really should be going.
Sorry,
Yannick,
I took all of Yannick's time.
it's really good. It's good. I did allude last week to the fact that we had said there'd be 2 phases of the PTS, and I did kind of prod a little bit and ask if there's a potential for more. Yannick, where do we stand on that right now, with phase 2 starting soon?
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, we have phase 2. We have a lot of changes for phase 2. I think it's becoming very clear for us that we will want to have a phase 3. We will very likely want to have a phase 3 at the very least to validate the final changes. Also because, as Bruce mentioned, phase 1 was not necessarily as as successful as we would have wanted in terms of PvP feedback because of the Foundry Bulwark. So I think, we will very likely be doing a phase 3. At least we would like to do it.
That's good. I mean, that's really good news for the health of the game. So I'm very excited about that, and we'll make sure that we continue having these conversations with everyone in the community. So do stay tuned for opportunities to talk about the PTS, and we'll obviously be talking more about it next week. For now, though, that's going to wrap up State of the Game number 161. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Yannick.
Thank you for having me.
I now need to get Yannick a webcam, because it's starting to creep me out every time I look across, and I'm like, he's looking right into my soul, and he's judging me really hard.
I'm doing
great.
it anyway.
Yeah, that's going to be all. Thanks, Bruce, for bringing the heat. And make sure, everyone in chat, that you stay involved with giving feedback on the PTS, because it's much appreciated, and it's going to be really good for the game. That's going to be all for today, and I will leave people with some Division photos. We did have some questions on Twitter about how people can send in photos for the end of the show. Just use hashtag the Division 2 photos on Twitter, and we will share those and make a little video and put them in the show at the end. So please get stuck into that if that's what you want to do. All right, that's going to be all. Bye. Yannick, wave.
Yeah, I'm waving.
All right.
And a blink.
All right, catch you later, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Hi everyone, I did forget to mention that we will be talking about Season 2 next week, so if you're still here, and if you still want to show up next week to talk about more stuff, Season 2 is going to be on the agenda. I just got a message from Chris and he's mad at me for not mentioning that. So, Season 2 next week, if you're interested in that sort of things. Post-credits teaser, unfortunately not. But yeah, thanks for coming today. We'll see you all next week.